So I'd like to now go over to back to the program, the genetics program, and ask Paula Webb to present her presentation on a PALS view of genetics.
Thank you to the International Alliance of ALS and MND Associations for asking me to speak with you today. My name is Paula Trefiak. I'm an ALS research advocate with NEALS and ALS Canada. I'm a patient community representative for the Scientific and Medical Advisory Council with ALS Canada. I'm a community fellow for the International Symposium of ALS and MND Research. And of course, I'm an individual with SOD1 ALS, G37R variant. Over the past 15 years, we have begun to understand that there is an underlying role that genetics play in all ALS cases. As more and more promising clinical trials become available, so does the need for improved access to genetic testing for people with ALS. My story began in 2010 when I started to demonstrate signs and symptoms of ALS, less than a year after my father passed away of the disease. I pushed for genetic testing at that time, but being 28 years old, I was told I was too young and there was no need to have that genetic testing as it would only be a hindrance. 5 years later, as my symptoms started to become worse, I pursued the issue again. And at that time, I was able to go through the proper channels to get neurologists and eventually to get that genetic testing completed. My results came back in June 2016 when I was indeed diagnosed with SOD1 ALS G37R variant. This proved to be very beneficial to me because in November 2016, I got a call saying that there was a gene-specific clinical trial about to start and if I would want to participate. I jumped on the opportunity. It was a two-trial phase 1B for the tofersen. I participated in that trial for 6 months. I still do not know today whether or not I was on placebo or whether I was receiving the drug. But luckily, that trial led to an open label extension, which I continue to receive to this day. The genetic testing was extremely important, not only to me, but to my family. A few years later, I had a few cousins tested for the same variant of ALS, as well as my sister, all who ended up being positive for the same variant. Thanks to the genetic testing, all of them were able to start participating in the tofersen trial as well, and again, proceed to go on to the open label extension. Without a doubt, it has made a significant difference in our lives, some of us more than others. For one cousin who is more advanced in the disease progression than myself, while the tofersen trial is working out, again, we all know ALS has a snowball effect. Once the disease progression starts and the further along it goes, the faster and faster the progression happens. And for that cousin, while tofersen is helping, it's definitely not a cure. And for those of us that were able to start the trial early on, it is proving very promising for us. Which is why I think that genetic testing for others, even though they may not have the genetic variation or the familial version of ALS, is extremely important. As we have more clinical trials that are gene-specific coming out, it is very important for more people to also have the opportunity to be part of these trials that target their variation of ALS. And with that, we'll probably see more and more therapies that are approved in the near future that will enable us to have gene-targeted therapies, and not just one, but multiple for every different type of ALS out there. For ongoing trials to be successful, we also need more genetic testing available. Because if we can target these genes and prove that these drugs work for a specific variation of ALS, the more likely it is that these drugs will be approved and be out in the market to help specific individuals. Again, I hope my story has helped you understand that improved access to genetic testing is extremely important and does have a use. Thank you again for listening, and have a great day.
So, goodness, Paula, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And I think it's incredibly powerful, things you said. It makes us think about the implications of genetic MND. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I think it's also really important for us to focus that people living with ALS really should be the center of everything that we do, and it's really, really important to hear from you, and it's such an important topic. So thank you very much for that.